Welcome back to Restoring Sean. Today we are in episode 11, where we are finally moving out of the main house and into the shambling mess that was my garage. If you're new to the channel, I post a new video every Wednesday morning where I do some sort of whirligig into the work that went into restoring my very first house, the Manor. All opinions are my own. Never assume I have the correct answer. And did you know I've met Harvey Fierstein?
Could you make me a woman?
Honey, I'm so happy.
I knew you'd understand.
Now you do. Let's get started. Right away, here is a photo of the garage from the 2013 listing. It's horrifying, and this is exactly how it looked when I bought the house 5 years later. Note the panels of rotting OSB on the left and right of the door, which indicated how wide the doors were when the garage was built in 1927. Unfortunately, I don't have any pictures inside the garage for the first 7 months of living there.
What?
And I know what you're going to say. What do you mean you don't have any photos inside the garage before work began? And to that I'd respond, well, you must be new around these parts because I am just jack shit at taking those kinds of pics. But I do have these two, just to give you an idea of what it looked like after a small amount of cleaning. Couple of things to note in the first image. In the bottom right corner, there is the stack of doors I've referenced in previous videos, all of them vintage and taken from within the house. There was a fire at one point in the garage, which is why there is newer OSB covering up the corner. There's no garage door opener. The lights were all powered by an extension cord. And in the bottom of the image, the garage floor was covered in rugs. Initially, it was a massive blue tarp covering the floor, but underneath that tarp, several layers of carpeting and rugs. All of them were soaked in water and cat pee. So let's start at the beginning here. The garage was the sort of building that you just didn't want to go into. At the time of moving in, I had no idea that there was an extension cord running to the garage, so I didn't try plugging anything in. There was just a fluorescent light inside, and that was it. I think when I looked at the house originally, we may have briefly looked in the garage. The lock was busted on the door, and the door was dragging along the concrete floor, so we just kind of pushed it open a little bit, looked inside, and thought, yeah, it's a garage, and then shut the door, and that was it. The day of moving, my friend Renee started the day with me, helping me to load up the truck from where I was renting a house and going to the Manor for unloading. And then eventually 2 other friends from work, Kara and Robin, showed up as well. When everybody was there, I decided we could take a little break from moving things and maybe we could check out the garage, because I was, giving the tour, showing everybody around and how horrifying the yard was with its weeds and all that. And let's check out the garage. So we went and we pushed open the creaky door and entered the space. There were some sawhorses in there, the aforementioned rugs, and the overwhelming smell of cat pee. Since the garage was not sealed by any means, the stray cats of the neighborhood had just kind of taken it over and made it their own. I think I was the one that was walking in first, so I had a stick in front of me to get any spider webs that might be in the way. And of course we didn't want spider webs in our hair, so we were all kind of ducked down. But we were in the garage, and all of a sudden there was this rustling sound in the back corner, and we turned and looked, and back there was like a workbench and a whole bunch of metal boxes that were filled with like nuts and bolts for some reason stacked on them. And all of a sudden something dropped from the rafters, and we all just screamed and booked it out of the garage, screaming and dancing and whatever, because you're freaked out and you don't know what it was that dropped down and you don't want spiders on you and all these things. And in my mind, it was going to be a raccoon, and I just didn't want to be in the same space as a raccoon because they're crazy and I didn't want to get my face scratched off. But then this cat comes tearing out of the garage behind us. So the cats were living up in the rafters of the garage. Viewer discretion advised in this next photo that I'm going to show in 3, 2, 1. The photo popping up right now was the gift a cat left behind for me in the garage entrance that November, and it was just the back haunches of a little mousie. In March of 2019, when the snow was essentially gone and it was marginally warm enough to begin working on things outside, my dad came out to visit and helped me with a bunch of things in the garage. The main door of the garage did not open because the tracks were misaligned. Several of the wheels that would roll the door up were broken. So when you tried to manually open it, it might go up like maybe a foot and then it would jam. At some point in the past, somebody, I don't know if it was a previous owner or someone in the alley, had slightly run into the garage door, so it was also bent inward a bit, and that contributed to the issues of it opening up. I had a garage door repair guy come out though, and he did some tinkering with the tracks, replaced a bunch of the wheels, greased everything up, and then you could at least open it manually all the way, which was awesome because, as I said, the garage was very wet inside, and this meant that it could start airing out a little bit if I was doing things outside. But if you're familiar with the smell of cat pee, when it's overwhelming, it's just like an ammonia, gross, strong scent. So getting that to air out was fantastic. The concrete underneath the rugs was all shattered, and in parts it was broken and heaving upward. It was worse in the winter when it would heave up because the ground would freeze underneath. And this was because there was no rebar support system through the garage floor. The garage was built in 1927, so I'm not sure if that was just something they didn't do in residential construction back then or what the deal was. But at the end of the day, the garage floor was just a mess. Okay, so my dad comes out. I told you there was no electric opener, so that was going to be one component of his visit. But the other issue was the man door on the side of the garage. The entire garage had a sort of lean to it where if you were looking at it dead on, the garage was leaning to the right. But then if you were looking at it from the side, from the back of the house, the garage was leaning backwards. So the whole thing was kind of pivoting back to one corner. And the man door was at that back corner, so it was most affected by the lean. When we started brushing away the debris from around that corner so that we could see what we were going to be dealing with, we could see that not only were the support posts rotted away, but they were resting on a rock on top of a brick. So the back corner of the garage was not actually in contact with the floor because, you know, why not use a rock and a brick to hold up the garage? I'd purchased a new man door, a steel security door, so that we could secure the garage, and then that way I would be able to start storing things out there without fear of them getting stolen. My dad was basically going to reframe the whole back corner of the garage, partly for new supports for the back of the garage, but also so that we'd have a new frame for that door to sit in, because the old one had a definite slant to it, as you'll see in a photo in just a moment. After getting some treated lumber down on the floor, we started framing the new opening. Notice the lean of the garage here compared to the perfectly straight door frame. After this, the new door was fitted in and installed, meaning I could actually lock the garage, which was super exciting. And next we move on to the electric opener, which took a while to get it up and going because this was a first-time process for us. But once that was functional and installed, it was such a thrill for me to hit the button and have the garage door open up, because this meant I could now park inside of it instead of having to park on the gravel driveway area that was wide open access to the alley and whoever was walking up and down the alley. And, you know, I would just rather the car be locked up. In this photo, you can see the rugs rolled up on the left, the shattered concrete, and then piles of debris on the right from tearing out the kitchen ceiling, the old toilet, and one of the rain collection barrels from the backyard, which we will discuss in 2 more weeks. A couple of months later, at the start of June 2019, I started prettying up random parts of the yard, and that meant fixing the muddy path that went to the garage door. All of the bricks you see in this photo were ones I had found around the property, still stamped from when they were made back in the early 1900s. I lined my path with them and filled it with white marble chunks, then spread wood chips on either side in a sort of vain attempt to control the milkweed and various saplings that were always trying to grow. I purchased a much more robust extension cord for the garage, thick and yellow rather than the flimsy blue one that had been there, and you can see it running inside the building here on the bottom right. This picture also shows one of the 2 lights I purchased for the garage. I wanted it back there because at nighttime, the light from the alleyway did not hit the backyard at all, so it was just pure jet black and you couldn't see anything. With this being there, it felt a lot less imposing and scary back there, having the ability to see everything. Later in the summer, my parents were back visiting and helping with a couple projects, one of which was fixing the front of the garage. As a reminder, it had these big panels on the side that were rotting off of the building, and because I had already started painting the main house on the outside, I wanted to get cracking on the garage as well. We pulled the big panels down and went and bought new wood siding, spending the afternoon working in tandem, pulling old wood off and putting new wood up. The result was a cohesive look, obviously pre-paint, but for a nicely restored garage. I couldn't wait to work on it though, and my first step in making it over would be to paint the main garage door itself. Not surprisingly, I used Sherwin-Williams paint again with the color from inside the house, iron ore, as my accent in a satin finish. Notice at the top of the image the light that hadn't existed before, so that the driveway itself would now be lit as well.
However,
before I could paint the garage siding, there was the matter of resolving all of the peeling paint on the original wood. This meant scraping. This is a miserable process, and it is one that I had to endure for the bulk of the main house as well. The original siding was redwood, which was awesome that they used that material, and it had held up remarkably well in the 100 years since it was put on. But it was old and it was dry and it was just tired. And at this point, the paint on it was at least 30 years old, if not older. And I lean to it being older. In this video, you can also see that I added trim to the new siding and painted it white with just a quick glimpse of the new garage color as well. That garage color was the same color I painted the house itself, Dark Night by Sherwin-Williams, in a satin finish, which you can see here where I had attached new house numbers to the garage and replace the busted ass looking old ones. And after not much time of toiling away at this, maybe a week, here is the finished front of the garage, all trimmed out and pretty with the light of the setting sun hitting it. I wouldn't commence work on painting the rest of the garage until the following spring, as at this point we were into September and I had other things on my mind. But spring of 2020 did come, and with it, more time to scrape the garage. In this photo, you can see there used to be back windows for the building, but they had been boarded up years ago and I had no intention of fixing that, strictly from a security standpoint and how shady the neighborhood was. The alley side of the garage was in the worst of all conditions, and the paint hardly needed to be scraped at all because it was just shedding off the surface of the wood. The garage was really a case study in doing the prep work before you can do the pretty work, and I am admittedly not a fan of the prep work. Mostly because you don't see prep, right? Take, for example, my current house, which you won't see for several more months. The kitchen in this house had the walls and ceiling gutted to the studs. It was all rewired, replumbed, re-sheetrocked, replastered. The ceiling was covered in beadboard and trim, but you won't really know that in person. In person, you'll notice the paint colors, you'll notice the texture on the walls, and you'll notice the details on the ceiling. That's why prep work sucks, because it's never appreciated for the amount of work that went into making a space what you get to see in the end. And I guess that's why I'm making these videos. Anyway, I digress. In 2020, the other task of the garage was cleaning. And seeing as it was COVID time and the world, including my store, was shut down and in a quarantine, I had nothing but time. The inside of the garage had some cool stuff in it from the past because the walls were lined or insulated with old newspapers. They were molding and falling off the walls and serving no purpose anymore, so I elected to remove them all in an effort to clean up the space and get rid of all the nesting spots for bugs and spiders and wasps. I also found all of these slats of wood from old fruit crates, and I got really excited because they were from California, and one of them in particular was from Rialto, which was where my dad used to work. Not for a fruit company, but he worked in Rialto. Here is the pile of newspapers from the entire project, with the walls finally looking clean and giving me a tremendous sense of relief. You can also get a better view here of the garage floor and how it was broken apart back toward the man door. That's where the concrete would really heave upward in the winter, with like a 4-inch rise. And on the left, there was a huge pothole where the floor sunk, and you can make that out by the pink insulation. Also in this photo, the original window frames along the back of the garage were still intact, though without any glass. And then lastly, when I was cleaning the garage out and using the leaf blower to get all the remains of dust and dirt and debris, whatever, blown out into the driveway, I uncovered this, which is how I knew when the garage was built. I love the little snips of history that this house continued to surprise me with. A month or so later, when it was warm enough for me to do so, I finished painting the outside of the garage. Painting in temperatures above freezing, or really temperatures that are averaging in the 50s, is incredibly important when you're painting outside, because if a freeze comes within a few weeks of applying that paint, you run the risk of the paint failing. That means it can separate from the wood or metal or whatever you're painting it on, or it can bubble behind it or peel off, and you just don't want that. Especially with what you're spending on paint, you don't want that. The other big thing that happened in 2020 was that I was approved through my insurance provider to replace my roof. This also meant replacing the roof on the garage. This was really awesome because the roof on the garage was older than the 25-year-old roof on the house and was likely from the early 80s or late 70s. I'd never really hired out for big work like this, so getting to watch these guys work so quickly and diligently was a great way to spend a couple of days. Also, seeing the old and decrepit become new again, that's just priceless if you ask me, and it is such a treat to watch. Then finally, at the end of summer, the house was listed and this was the photo taken for the garage. It was a far cry from the house of horrors it had been when I purchased it 2 years earlier, and as a whole, it was something I was really proud of. I'm fond of the saying, you can't polish a turd, but I think in this case, you can put some nice foil on it and sell it as earrings. That is all I've got for you today though. Thank you so much for watching and laughing with me, or at me, either or, as we went through the process of what it took to bring the garage back to life. Please click the like button below if you were laughing with me, or at me, and make sure to subscribe for new videos. Next week, Wednesday, we will be going around to the front of the house and exploring the work that went into restoring the front yard of the manor, transforming it from the jungle it was to the calm lawn that it was by the time it sold. Until then, I bid you adieu, and I will see you soon.